What the city is talking about.
The news that impacts you.
Welcome to the Montreal Now podcast.
This next story is just super cool. In a sport where competitors, right, begin their careers as early as age 12, believe it or not, and where they're considered senior, they can enter senior competitions at the age of 16. My next guest would be considered ancient, even though she's only 59 years old and is about to head to Germany to compete in the largest gymnastics tournament, I believe, in the world. Let's say hi to Milda Graham, who's on the line. Milda, how are you?
I'm very great, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Listen, with respect to I've never heard of this gymnastics festival before, but as I said, they expect 80,000 participants, and this covers pretty much every discipline in gymnastics. Am I right?
Yes, we're going to have, I'm sure there's going to be different festivals and workshops and performances, but also the competition that I'm entering is the World Masters. So that's for those over 30 and with age groups. For each decade.
So you're barely over 30 at 59. How did you get into gymnastics? How long have you been doing this?
I started as an infant when my dad threw me in the air and caught me. He caught me.
Oh, that's good.
So that was really, really safe. Don't try that at home. But I've been doing it ever since. I took a few years off after an elite career with Wim Gym, where I still coach. And tried it again in my late 20s, and to my surprise, I was very functional.
So do you compete, or have you been competing regularly?
Yes, I've competed in every decade of my life except the first one. So yes, in my teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and now 50s.
Okay, I think we have your coach on the line too, right? Andrea Ropeleski's on the line over at the Acrofit in Vaudreuil. Andrea, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi.
Hi. So I'm curious, does someone who's been doing this, as long as Milda has, really need a coach?
Well, that's a good question. Maybe one better equipped for her. But yeah, you know what? We both train. We train together, and now I've been training her for the past few years. And speaking as an athlete myself, I always need my coach too. So it helps with motivation, accountability, a mirror reflection of our training to make sure it's safe and sound, to keep our body's integrity going as long as possible. Nobody wants an injury. It's just too long to recover from at this age.
So I would ask, I typically would watch gymnastics at the Summer Olympics and probably no other time. What events are we talking about that Andrea, or that Milda rather, is going to be competing in here?
All four. She's going to be performing on the floor exercise. She's going to be doing the vault, the uneven bars, and the beam, balance beam. So everything, wow. Every traditional possibility you can do. Yeah, all four.
Milda, why do you want to push yourself here? How important is this to you?
This is my literally a dream to represent Canada. I've competed all over U.S. With a Czech-Slovak Sokol organization. But this would be my first international competition. I've competed in other sports, but never for gymnastics, which is my passion and my heart, and never for Canada. So.
And are you going to be competing against other people your age, or are you going to compete against, who are fairly younger than you?
Well, they're going to be younger because I'm the oldest in my category of 50 to 59. So that's a big stretch of aging, but I'm going to do my best.
Now, I think back to just how difficult, gymnastics is on your body, right? We've all seen this kind of stuff, as I said, maybe in Olympics, and there are injuries on a fairly regular basis, some of them quite serious. Did you ever get hurt in your career enough that you're saying, you know what, maybe I'm too old for this?
That's why I left the sports at age 15. I had severe overtraining and rotator cuff issues in my shoulders. So, but with proper training and, a bit of, knowledge of the body, proper support, proper coaching, advice from physiotherapists and practicing yoga, I've been able to keep it together, I tell you.
How often do you work out or practice now?
I practice gymnastics twice a week. I do cardio once a week. I do high intensity conditioning once a week, and I do yoga once a week. Okay.
I was going to ask you what your advice to someone hearing your regimen is, but I'm not sure that's fair. At some point, at the end of all this, do you call it quits, or is this just, how long are you going to keep doing this?
I've seen a German woman. Her name is Joanna Quaz. She's in her 90s, and she still does lovely cartwheels
Wow.
and, age-appropriate things. So each year, my gymnastics gets more and more yogic, I would say, a little less impact, a little less, height and flight and difficulty and risk. But I still keep the heart of it and the enjoyment and the passion of it. So I'd met women from Europe doing this, at the age I am now and older. When I was with the Czech group, they said gymnastics was their spirit and they never want to stop. So for me, that it really spoke to me.
Okay. I'm curious, too, with respect to other people listening and thinking, what do you do when you're not working out? Do you have like a real job, or is this what you do full time?
No, I'm a teaching assistant at McGill University, where I'm doing research in the Department of the School of Religious Studies, where I look at muscular spirituality and the history of gymnastics and yoga.
Wow. What a real underachiever you are, huh?
I'm all in. What can I say?
Wow, good for you.
I really love, when I love it, I love it. So it's a gift that it's been able to kind of flow into my my academic life as well.
Good for you. Hey, Coach Andrea, what's your message to people out there hearing this who think, what, if someone can still do it and have this passion at that age, I'd like to do it too. How hard is it to get involved?
Well, it's actually super easy. It was a big eye-opener for me, too. When I hit 28, I thought I was too old to continue. So I had to find groups to participate in, and I was basically training and competing with kids between the age of 9 and 18 at the age of 36. So, how awkward and embarrassing that was, but the passion of the sport, it takes over. So we ended up developing programs strictly for adults, and it grew at the time to 5 times a week. Now I'm coaching adults between the ages of 30 to, Milda's age, 7 days a week. So we have private training, semi-private training, group training. I'm affiliated with Club Campiagile in Valleyfield. They're incredibly generous with their time and space there. So they allow me to bring my athletes there, and I train them there, and I also have a home studio, and we're fully equipped outdoors too. So it's super easy. People show up, they call and say, I want to learn to flip. And they think they're crazy, but no, they come and try it, and they're shocked every time. Well, we're all a bit crazy, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
I want to learn to... That's a phone call I don't think I'd ever make. I want to learn to flip. Okay.
We're going to invite you to try now.
Yeah,
you know that.
Yeah, of course, and I'd be the first one there. Milda, I want to congratulate and wish you all the best in the competition. Ladies, thank you both. Andrea, thank you. All the best.
You.
Take care.
Thank you
there you go.
so much.
Milda Graham, 59 years old, about to head to an international gymnastics competition representing Canada in Germany. Amazing.
Bringing you the breaking news and the people making it. Montreal Now with Aaron Rand. CJAD 800.
We check in with Dr. Joe Schwarz. He is host, of course, of the Dr. Joe Show here on CJAD, Sundays at 3. He's also director of the McGill Office for Science and Society. And Joe, I sent you a video. Did you have a chance to check it out?
I did.
Okay, let me play some of it so people understand. It's funny because this came up in conversation today. Our producer, Brian Callistar, who's been ill, he's talking about the fact he forgot to check he has no Tylenol at home or whatever, but he did have what? He had Vicks Vapor Rub, which he used, and I said, that's funny because that's what I'm going to talk to Dr. Joe about. This is something I found on the internet yesterday. I'm going to play part of it, and then, Joe, you can weigh in. Here you go.
Did you know that applying Vicks Vapor Rub on your feet before bed can do wonders for your body? Here's how it works. When you rub this Vicks Vapor Rub on your feet, it stimulates nerve receptors in our feet. And this sends powerful sensory messages up the spinal cord to the back of the brain called the medulla oblongata. And this part of the brain controls functions like your heart rate, your breathing, as well as many others. This simple act can help soothe your chronic cough, help you get to sleep, help you wake up more refreshed. So here's what you need to do. Apply some of the Vicks Vapor Rub on your feet, a thin layer. Put some cozy socks on. Do it about 15 to 30 minutes before you go to bed. And let the magic work overnight. People swear by this method that it's a calming effect. It will help you sleep through the night and wake up nice and refreshed.
All right. So you get it. So, Joe, forget about rubbing it on your chest. Rub it on the bottoms of your feet. What do you think?
Right. Well, Aaron, as soon as you sent me that video, of course, I looked at it. And as soon as I started looking at it, I said to myself, this is a chiropractor. I tell you, I can sniff him out. I really can. And of course, it turns out that is exactly what he is. which means that they're not, totally trustworthy when it comes to health issues, except maybe when they manipulate your low back for pain.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, Vicks VapoRub, interesting thing. It's been around for some 80 years or so, and it's camphor, menthol, and eucalyptus oil. That's what it is. And when you rub it on your chest or on your back, when you have a cough, there is anecdotal evidence for improvement. I've tried to look to see if there's anything published on PubMed, in the scientific literature. There isn't. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence.
Wow.
And it's not harmful. There's some very interesting stories, though, aside from this, about Vicks VapoRub. Apparently, kids use it at raves. They take ecstasy, which is, of course, they shouldn't be doing it. It's a very dangerous drug. But they take ecstasy as an upper. And they claim that ecstasy is known to have a very short half-life, so it doesn't last very long. But they say that when you rub your back first with Vicks VapoRub, and then you take the ecstasy, it lasts longer.
What?
Yeah. Now
hold on, Joe, hold on a sec. Let me talk to our ecstasy expert here. That's Dean Bertoia. Dean, have you ever done the Vicks VapoRub thing?
Like on the feet thing?
No, what he just talked about, taking ecstasy and then put it Vicks VapoRub on.
I haven't done that.
You've not done that?
No.
Your friends who've done that?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I'll ask.
So, Joe, so that's now, I guess, in the popular culture, if you will.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of bizarre. But I want to get back to this. So, does it, could it do any harm, or is this just kind of, something else to do?
No, I don't think it can do any harm. But I don't see that there's any way that putting menthol or camphor on the sole of your foot is going to affect your brain. I think, that is just not how the nervous system works.
Joe, people are swearing by it. You heard that guy say that.
Oh, yeah.
The whole world
swear by it. Yeah. People also swear by putting a soap underneath the sheet in order to get rid of restless leg syndrome, right?
Soap?
People swear by that, too.
Oh.
People swearing is not exactly scientific evidence.
Fair enough. All right, listen.
Anyway, Aaron, there's something else I want to mention today, because my office, particularly my colleague Jonathan Jerry, has for a month worked on a video, and I think it's going to get a lot of attention because it is about Joe Mercola, who is widely recognized as the most influential of all the wellness influencers that are out there. He's an osteopathic physician, but he hasn't practiced now for years. But he's built a huge empire with his website, with his videos, with his books, selling all kinds of supplements. He's had, of course, numerous warnings from FDA about making unsubstantiated claims. But he gets over 10 million hits every month on his website. Plus, there's all of the other stuff that he does. He does radio interviews. He puts out videos. He's tremendously influential. In fact, the New York Times has called him the most effective influencer. Now, it turns out, believe it or not, that he is a believer in messages from the spirit world, and he consults a psychic. And the medical information that he gives comes from this psychic, who, as you'll find out if you watch the video, is basically a con man who's trying to convince Mercola that he has a conduit to the spirit. It's an absolutely remarkable story. All of the major news networks are interested in it and are online to try to further this. And at 12 o'clock today, we released the video. It's on our website, mcgill.ca/OSS. And I think it's going to be one of the most impactful things that we've ever done, because he is in line to be part of Robert F. Kennedy's crew. He's in line for a high position at NIH.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mcgill.ca/OSS.
Exactly.
Okay. Before we go, I brought this up last week, and I said I have a new favorite now. I don't drink Coke. I don't do the sugar thing. Every now and then, it'll be a Diet Coke. But my daughter turned me on to something called Olipop, right? So this is a soda. It's a prebiotic. And I said, there's no sugar in it, which is a good thing. And I brought it up, and you said, oh, yeah, wait. So in front of me, Joe, I have the ingredients label, okay? Let me go through this and then tell me what you think. Main ingredient, carbonated water. No problem there. Okay.
Yeah.
Followed by, hang on, I just got to do it sideways here. Cassava root fiber, chicory root, inulin, Jerusalem artichoke, inulin, nopal cactus, marshmallow root, calendula flower, kudzu root, Concord grape juice concentrate, lime juice, apple juice concentrate, cassava root syrup, stevia leaf, I guess, is the sweetener, Himalayan pink salt, and natural grape flavor. I didn't see anything bad in here. Are you going to tell me this is not what it is?
Well, it is what it is. I mean, it contains exactly what you just read. Basically, this is a source of fiber. That's what it is. So fiber is what bacteria in our colon feed on. And they produce a variety of compounds that are beneficial, that get absorbed into the bloodstream. Most people do not get enough fiber. So this certainly is better than the usual soft drink.
Okay.
It can have a side effect. You know what happens when you consume too much fiber? You can produce gas.
Okay.
So that would be one of the but yes.
If that's the worst of it, that's not so terrible, right?
No, if you have to choose between this and then the soft drink, I think one can argue for this one. I've never tasted it. I don't know what it tastes like.
Okay. Well, first of all, it comes in a variety of flavors. If you want it from me, I'm particularly hooked on one, which is grape, like like an orange, whatever, like grape crush kind of thing. I think it's amazing. I actually think I hate to say this because it's going to sound weird. When the fizz in this thing is amazing. It's like they should sell it in shots. I don't need to drink a half a can. I just need a couple of hits and I'm good. Because it's so heavily carbonated.
And when do you drink this?
Whenever. Just a sip here, a sip there.
Not with a meal.
Could? Why? Should I not be drinking it with a meal?
No. I don't know. I mean, that's something that I have just not grown up with and never got used to drinking a soft drink with a meal.
No, I'm just it could be with a meal, could not be with a meal. There's no sort of set. I just wanted you to not tell me it was terrible for us.
No, I don't think it's not terrible. So enjoy your fiber flavored with grape.
Thank you. I will. Again, if you want to check out that video, for those of you who know, what's this doctor's name again?
Joe Mercola.
Joe Mercola. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything you need to know about Joe Mercola, and it's not going to be good.
And you do need to know.
Yeah. So that's, again, McGill.ca/OSS.
That's it.
Right, for Office of Science and Society. OSS, not FS like Sam. All right, going to check it out. Joe, thanks so much.
The very latest news, reported and discussed. Welcome back to Montreal Now on CJAD 800.
It is time to check in with Chris Dimakos. He's our CJAD 800 legal contributor. And Chris, I think it's fair to say there's a whole lot more bad news than there is good news in the cards this week. So let me start with one here. The Bay, right, oldest retailer in this country, we now know, filing for bankruptcy protection. They will be liquidating. That's potentially 9,000 jobs across the country through 80 stores that conceivably could be lost if there is no white knight. Plus, you're letting me know as well, major corporations in this country are giving pretty grim outlooks for 2025 to shareholders, and that's obviously a pretty bad sign as well. So, that said, there may be a lot of people out there now wondering how long they're going to have their jobs, what to do if they're told, you know what, sorry, we're going to have to start laying people off. We know the federal government, by the way, about a week or so ago, I think we had Steve McKinnon, the employment minister, on, talking about the fact that there are backstops being set up because they're anticipating this is going to happen. So let's start with that. You find yourself in that situation. You're going to now be out of work or have your hours reduced. What do you do? What can you do?
Right. And, you brought up a great point how the employment minister was looking for programs to try and backstop. There's something called they just came out with a new program called the employee share program, where if you have 5 people, let's say, in one department, and the company, instead of letting 1 or 2 employees go, says, why don't we put everyone on a 3-day work week and apply for this program, and then the 2 days that they're not working would be subsidized by the federal government. So there's a lot of programs looking at this. But if you're an employee right now, I think it's fair to say that many companies are evaluating what the next 12 to 24 months is going to look like with this new administration in place and the threat of tariffs. It's not just if you are in the industry, but there's always a ripple effect. So it could be, if you don't deal with the U.S., but you sell to a customer that deals with the U.S., well, if they're buying less, it indirectly impacts you. So this is what most people are worried about, and companies are trying to forecast how much overhead they have, how many employees they have, and they don't want to let this thing get out of control. So it's possible that there's going to be shuffling at work, might be a work reduction. People might talk to you about taking a pay cut. People might talk to you about changing your responsibilities, adding more responsibilities to your work because they let go of somebody else. And ultimately, sometimes they talk about letting you go, and letting you go, not just, hey, here's a nice hefty package. Sometimes that package doesn't look so good when times are tough like this. So it's important, if you're out there, to always know that it's a possibility and to know how to react when that happens.
All right, well, let's talk about a reaction because, that's what, lawyers and legal advice is for. Let's say you find yourself to something you just outlined, Chris. Your company comes back and says, look, times are tough. It's going to be a bad year. We're going to ask you to take a pay cut. Yet you've been making, and you have a contract or whatever, and this is what you make. What do you do in a case like that? Is the idea that if you don't accept it, you lose your job?
Right. That's a great point. So usually what happens is, it's not a law, right? But there's case law and there's precedent and there's situations, and it looks like there's this unwritten rule that 10% seems to be a recognized threshold where if a company asks you to take a pay cut that is less than 10%, it's not. It's not considered to be a constructive dismissal where they're trying to let you go by forcing you out the door by not accepting this. So 10%, just understand that. But what you should look at whenever these things happen, whether it's a job responsibility, whether it's a pay cut, whatever the case may be, you have to look at this as the company as a whole. Who's being asked to have their pay cut? Is it just you, or is it everyone across the whole company? Because if it's the latter, well, then you have a much less chance of being able to prove that is a constructive dismissal. But if you're the only one that they're asking to have a pay cut, well, then the chances are much stronger that they're targeting you to try and push you out the door. So the first thing you do is the minute that someone approaches you and says, here's what we want to change, whether it be responsibility, salary, work week, whatever, the first thing you want to do is get information. Who is this applied to? Is it just me? And you're allowed to ask those questions. To your HR or to your manager. Is it just me or is it everyone else? Who's being affected by these? These are things that you're entitled to know and to know, what your course of action is going to be next. And if you've established or you feel like this is something that is particular to you and not so much a company-wide decision, well, the next step is to take a look and get some advice on, hey, what are my rights here? Can I oppose this? And if I get fired for opposing it, can I claim a package or a penalty from the tribunals? You have to start understanding what the consequences are for your decisions afterwards. But the first order of business is find out if this thing is objective, meaning it goes company-wide, not particular to you, or is this something that's very, very precise and only applies to you?
Okay, and what if it is just a change in job responsibility, for example, one that you weren't doing but that they need you now to do?
Right. So the first thing you want to look at is what are your credentials? If you are someone who's in sales, but they're asking you to do, accounting or warehouse work. If something is outside the realm of what your assets are and what your credentials are, well, that would be maybe a too far stretch where you can be justified in saying that's not on my wheelhouse. That's not what I was hired to do. But for example, if they ask you to take on some of the administrative work, that correlates to what you've been doing. Companies have been deemed to be justified in doing so when times are tough economically. So the first thing you want to do is, what are they asking me to do? How much more work is this? Am I able to complete these tasks? Because the last thing you want to do is accept things that you're not able to complete, which would then affect your performance, which would put you in a bad position with the company. So evaluate what the work is, if you're capable of doing it, if it's within your capabilities and your experience, and if it is, and you can shoulder, then that's something that a company can do. It's only when it's outside of those attributes that I talked about, when it goes too far, when it's too far of a stretch, when it's too much work for you to be able to complete, that's when you're justified in saying, I can't do that. And you wouldn't get penalized. You would be vindicated if ever this thing went to a tribunal. So understand what that limit is, and if you need help, you can seek a professional, but The company doesn't have carte blanche when it comes to that. There are limits as to how much they can put on your plate and what they put on your plate as well.
And that's where we leave it. Chris Dimakos. Chris, thanks so much.
Thanks, Eric.
Because you don't want to miss a thing. Montreal Now on CJAD 800.
So look, here's the deal. We spent some time talking about the City of Montreal's decision, and that's now official, to restrict Airbnb rentals in this city to 3 months a year. It'll be June 10th to September 10th. That's it. That's on the books as of yesterday. Well, Airbnb, as you can imagine, is not real happy with the decision. I had a chance to speak earlier this afternoon to Alex Howell. She is policy lead for Airbnb in Canada, and I began by asking for her reaction to the city's decision.
We're obviously very disappointed that the city's moved ahead with this short-sighted, pretty extreme measure that's going to have huge impacts in the city. Preventing Montrealers from sharing their primary residence, which is the home that they live in full-time, while they're away on vacation, is going to do nothing to address the housing crisis in the city. It will, however, give visitors fewer accommodation options. It's going to make it more expensive for people to travel there. Last year, more than 400,000 guests stayed in an Airbnb between September and June. Where are those folks going to stay after this law goes into effect? And we've done the numbers. We estimate this measure will cost Montreal over $400 million a year in economic activity and really impact about 4,400 jobs. So we're obviously disappointed and want to make sure that Montrealers are aware of what those impacts are going to be.
So I have a couple of questions. The city says or contends that by doing this, it will free up, and we know affordable housing is an issue not here, but in a lot of cities, but specifically in Montreal, it's been an issue for a while, and the city says this will free up 2,000 housing units or homes. That's their figure. Do you dispute that figure as well?
We do. There has been a mounting body of evidence that has shown that short-term rentals really don't have an impact on housing affordability. And that really is because they are such a small portion of the available housing stock overall. And not only that, in most areas of Montreal, residents are already restricted to only sharing their primary residence. So what they're doing here is telling people that in their own home that they live in full time, if they go away over the winter, they're not allowed to share their space if they're on vacation down south. That's not making more housing available. It's just preventing folks that are there from making a little bit of extra money.
Thing is, we know that this is not unique to Montreal. Sometimes I think we tend to, kind of look at this like we're in a vacuum. Many cities around the world, cities like Montreal, have put restrictions on Airbnb, and they've been there for longer than Montreal has as far as restrictions go. If they find it's a problem so many other places, and Montreal is finding it now, how do you answer that? I mean, it's obviously a problem when cities decide they need to put restrictions in place.
Well, Quebec already has pretty strict regulations on short-term rentals across the entire province. The city of Montreal is required to allow hosts to rent before they can get a provincial license to do so. Montreal already has what it needs to support any enforcement within the city without taking these extreme measures. The Quebec Minister of Tourism herself has stated the compliance across the province is high, and she said that this move will, hurt both Montreal's reputation and tourism, and also noted, that it's only Montreal that struggled under the new law. Other cities have expressed support for this system and have made it work for them. If a Montreal official believes a host is ineligible to operate an Airbnb, all they needed to do is to decline to provide notice to the province that they're allowed to rent, and that property is just unable to operate on any platform. They've had all of these tools they needed to enforce their laws. Now they've taken these extra steps that are really going to hurt folks that are in compliance, have gone through all of the steps to get licensed through the provincial system, and are suddenly unable to share their home 75% of the year.
I think we also, though, heard, to be fair, from the city suggesting that many of these, you're referring to regulations that the provincial government put in place after the situation at the old Montreal fire. Despite that, there apparently have been ways for people to get around this, right? To get around having to get a permit number, whatever else, and it's a significant number into the thousands. So as much as that was in theory a good idea, in principle, it did not seem to work as well. How much responsibility should Airbnb bear for this?
We certainly take our responsibilities under the Quebec law very seriously. We comply with those. We make sure that our hosts are providing us with the information that they have to in order to operate on the platform. And again, it is really down to Montreal to have made sure that when they sign off on a host saying they would like to rent their place, that host is eligible to rent in the city of Montreal. Other cities have managed to do this in an effective way. It really just seems to be Montreal and Quebec specifically that's struggling here. And we would have been very open to conversations with them about how we could support what they're trying to achieve here. But unfortunately, we haven't had a whole lot of outreach. We haven't been able to meet with them and to discuss some of those other options. And so we've ended up in this situation, which we really don't see as being able to have a big impact. What it will do, as I said, is stop those primary residence hosts from sharing their space. A significant portion of those tell us that they're sharing their space in order to afford their mortgage, in order to stay in their homes, or in some cases even to avoid eviction. And so we want to make sure that those hosts are able to continue to do so. And we'll, of course, work with our host community to try to make sure they are as supported as possible through this situation.
Just to understand, it seems to me last time when the provincial government got involved, you did have, or Airbnb did have discussions with the provincial government at the time. I remember someone from Airbnb coming up here actually to Quebec City. Are you saying that this time, Montreal specifically, there were no discussions between the city and Airbnb before this went into effect?
Unfortunately not. We did reach out and, we're hoping to meet with them in advance, but did not receive a response before yesterday when the law went into a vote. So unfortunately, they weren't interested in our opinion. Of course, we work with cities around the world, across the country as well here. There are lots of ways that we could have suggested to them that they may have wanted to go as a separate direction, but unfortunately they really decided that this was how they were going to proceed and didn't consult not just with us, but they also didn't consult with hosts, with their own constituents to see how this was going to impact them or affect them. We had a number of our hosts reach out to us saying that they had tried to, make their voices heard on this, and unfortunately it seems that they weren't successful.
Can I just ask, you mentioned other cities across Canada, obviously, that have, issues perhaps and have taken measures. You said you've had discussions with them. Can you give us just a comparison, say to a city like Toronto, for example? What are their laws relative to ours?
Yeah, so Toronto also has a primary residence restriction. So hosts are only allowed to share the home that they live in full time, similar to what a lot of cities around the country and around the world have done, but they are allowed to do so over the course of the year. The City of Toronto has limited how many nights per year, so it's 180 nights per year that a host could share their home, but that's not in a specific time frame. So that recognizes that sometimes folks are away over the summer, sometimes they're away in the winter, they may go away for long weekends all summer long because they are headed to their cottage, whatever it looks like. The city is the city is flexible enough in its rules to actually adjust to individual circumstances. And on the flip side, recognize that people travel to major cities for all kinds of reasons throughout the year, and that they are in need of spaces to stay, and they may choose to stay in a short-term rental. If they're coming to Montreal, that may not be an option for them.
Alex, I'm out of time. I thank you so much. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Alex Howell. She is the, as I said, policy lead for Airbnb in Canada. Interesting. Remember when this first became a provincial issue? Airbnb had a representative up here. They didn't take a lot of questions at the time, but I do remember a meeting in Quebec City when it was the idea of, you're going to need a permit. And then we found out people are finding ways to get around that. This time, Montreal passed this bylaw yesterday with no consultation or discussion at all with Airbnb, which strikes me as a bit odd. Why wouldn't you have that? Okay.
Bringing you the breaking news and the people making it. Montreal Now with Aaron Rand. CJAD 800.
Frank Baylis is in studio. Frank, thank you so much. I can call you Frank now.
Absolutely.
Is that okay? For those of you, and this is interesting, I said this before we actually booked the interview. Once this whole race was over and Mark Carney, becomes the leader of the Liberals, becomes the Prime Minister, a lot of people are asking, what's going to happen? What's up with Frank Baylis? For someone who nobody knew in terms of politically around the rest of the country, or really in Montreal, you're a businessman. That's been your thing for a while. You were an MP for 4 years. But they wondered, okay, you did pretty good in the debates. I think a lot of people agreed that you had done very, very well. And then, the election comes and, okay, you finish whatever, third, fourth, doesn't matter. You're not going to be the leader of the Liberal Party. So people are wondering, I like this guy. Do you have a political future? What's next for Frank Baylis? So let me ask you that as a general question. First of all, your reaction to what happened. Were you disappointed? I mean, did you really believe that because people did not know you that well, you could have a chance to win that thing? I mean, you don't run when you don't think you have a chance, but what did you think really?
Look, I felt I had something to contribute. First of all, I'm a lifelong liberal, and I wanted to get my ideas out there. I realized afterwards, a mistake on my part is that I was never someone that looked for being known. It was never my shtick. Hey, I want to be known, or get me in the pictures and all that. So I'm more of an ideas person, more of a get down dirty, get to work kind of a guy. But I realized afterwards, to be fair to everybody, they didn't know me. There's like a very short race to 2 months, so there's not the time. Yeah. And then you add to that the media was always moved over to Trump. Every time Trump put out a tweet, everybody had to deal with that. So there wasn't a lot of time even to get to know any of the contestants.
So we're just talking about this off air, which is interesting. If Trump had not been in the picture, do you think things might have turned out differently?
I think that I would have done better. I think that they would have talked more about the race. And that's what I expected to do, and I expected to get my ideas to come across. But I'd hold press conferences where just a couple people in Ottawa would show up. Yeah. And they'd say, look, we're not talking about this today because we're talking about tariffs this, tariffs that, on and on. So it was hard to break through that, not just for me, but I think for the race.
Looking back, how did you think you did in the debates, both English and French?
Okay, so I walk out of the debates and my team's there and they go, great job, Frank. And I'm thinking, they're just trying to keep my spirits up here or whatever. And I'm thinking, whatever, I didn't do that good. But then afterwards, like I'm in the airport, I'm in the restaurant. Are you Frank Baylis? I say, yeah, can I take a picture? And I'm going, okay. So I was kind of surprised. I didn't think I did anything special, to be honest. But people seem to say that they liked the way I spoke and the ideas that I was presenting.
You know, I wonder how much of that. I remember reacting when this was all over, saying it was really a case of, I think anyway, for me, Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland doing, for lack of a better way to describe it, so poorly. I don't think, first of all, for Mark Carney, you know, the odds-on favorite, if you will, I don't think he really resonated with people. He seemed kind of stiff. He didn't come across, you know, all that well. Chrystia Freeland, I hate to say it, and I have no bones here with any of this, a lot of times sounds like she's talking to a grade school class. and I don't think that resonates with most Canadians either. Yeah. So I think you kind of win to some degree a little bit by default in that area, which is good for you.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people also said, I liked his ideas on business, stuff that they heard about what you would do, actual policies, which they didn't hear from anybody else.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do, is really just talk about my ideas. I didn't want to rehash the past. I don't want to get into name calling. And I think most Canadians, most people say, okay, what are you going to do for me today? These are my challenges today and tomorrow. What are we going to do about that? And a lot of politics, they land a punch. Oh, you're in a debate, land a punch. And I'm thinking, I'm not interested in doing that. I'm not looking to do that. I'm really looking to put forward ideas that people are going to resonate with and say, let's get to work on this. You know?
So at this point, we know there's in all likelihood an election being called on Sunday, and we're going to have a fairly short race, either going to the polls at the end of April, beginning of May. My question, I guess, would be, have you heard from Mark Carney at all since his selection as the leader?
Mark Carney's been very nice to me all along. So we spoke after the debates, before the debates, we spoke after the debates. He also spoke to me just before we walked on Sunday night for me to get crushed. Or as my friend said, I was first from the bottom. So, no, he's always had the door open, and they did reach out to me to see if I wanted to run, but I made the decision, like, I'm not going to run this time.
Does that mean you will never run again? Or what do you mean? We mean this time? I will point out one other thing, and I think people are obviously beginning to realize that now polls are beginning to show what was going to be an easy loss or an easy win, if you will, for the Conservatives. That's off the table now, thanks to Donald Trump, or maybe not. But regardless, it's a race now, and some polls actually have the Liberals ahead. Some suggest if there was a vote tomorrow, as they say, Liberals could even potentially form a majority. Wouldn't you want to be part of a government, or
what I'll do is this: if we're lucky enough to win, and the Canadian people say, "Look, we're going to put faith in the Liberal Party again," I'm going to offer my services to Ottawa. I'm going to say, "Look, they used to have things called $1 a year man or something like that." So I'm not looking for a job, but I'm more than happy to work on any one of these few files that I think I can really contribute on. And we'll have that. Sit down and have that conversation with them. So you don't necessarily need to be elected. Granted, it helps in some ways to have an impact. But my feeling was, look, let Mr. Carney go and do what if he wins, and that'd be fantastic, because I do think that he'd be a better prime minister than Mr. Poilievre. But I don't want to get into that part of it. But I'm going to try and impact and really help my country if I can, and they're open to having me help.
Okay, because I think some people might say, you know what, you wanted to be prime minister, you wanted to be leader, it didn't work out, game over, next page. Not for you. You want to stay involved.
I want to have an impact. I feel like I truly feel I've been blessed to live in this country. Both my parents immigrated here. It's been great for our family, my extended family, and I've had success in business, and I want to give back. And how do you give back? I can give back in this way. I could get myself elected. They did offer me, so people should know that they were very accommodating in that. I just felt
Did you think about it when they offered at all, or was it no, not now?
They talked to me even before the debates and after the debates and that. So they've been open to me, and I think that what I bring to the table, there's not a lot of people like me in government. So you've got the bureaucracy who are professional bureaucrats, and then you've got elected officials. But a challenge we have is that the elected officials are becoming professionals at getting elected. And so there's not someone that's coming with a lot of real world experience. So I do think I have something to offer. We'll just see how.
So from a business point of view, so you have a background in business. People know you're a self-made man. You've done very, very well in business. I know you talked about it during the campaign. Let's say they say to you, Frank, we need someone to sit down with a business background, which you have, as you said, as opposed to many other people in the party. Sit down and talk to Donald Trump. He's a businessman, right? He was in real estate. That's what he apparently does. What would be that conversation? What would you tell him about what's going on now?
Well, I think Mr. Carney's already started the right way, and it's something that I said I would do, and he's doing the same thing. Until we see a bit of respect, why would I go to someone's house or go to someone's place to be insulted? And so if I don't think we can have a conversation with Mr. Trump. I mean, we'd happy to pick up, and our prime minister has to pick up the phone if he calls. But someone that's insulting our prime minister, and by virtue of that, insulting our country, making fun of us, why do we need to put ourselves in that position? And I don't think it helps at all. By the way, flying down there and having to sit on your hands while he lords it over you, I don't think that helps at all. So my position was always to be, okay, you're going to treat us with respect. And if not, we're not going down there to be made fools of, like he's done with many other people. So Mr. Carney's taking that approach, and I agree with him on that.
So it's a matter of us waiting for him. Is it you call me before I call you?
I think that what he's going to do is he's going to try and hit us, but we need to take those hits, and then he'll see that we're not backing down and it's not working, and then he'll pivot. I'm sure of that, because he's destroying their economy. He is hurting their stock market's gone down, as I predicted. They're having the beginning of inflations. They've lost consumer confidence. So creating a world of uncertainty is bad for everybody. It's bad for Canada, no doubt, but it's also bad for Americans.
And I know the government's position, we have Melanie Joly coming up later in the show, the position now about this trying to sell Americans on the fact that this is bad for them. Forget about talking to people and, Congress people and politicians. People in the street, the average working man and woman, that will have to realize this is going to hurt them. That's the right approach.
Yeah, well, I think the Americans are going to look at first thing their stock market. They love their stock market, Americans, and he's brought it down tremendously just by the behavior. And look, let's say you're in construction, American construction. You can't start a program, you can't start a new building because steel might go up 50%.
Yeah.
And you can't take that risk, or wood might go up 50%. So he's forces a lot of business people have to put things on hold in the United States.
We're out of time. I want to thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. I'm guessing that's by virtue of what you said, not the last we necessarily have seen of Frank Baylis in politics.
That's correct.
So were that to happen, I wish you best of luck, and I thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Aaron. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it too.
This has been the Montreal Now podcast.
Listen live on your radio weekday afternoons from 2 to 6
on CJAD 800
or through the iHeartRadio app.